Emma stood behind the counter of the small coffee shop, her apron slightly stained with milk foam and cocoa powder. Outside, the morning sun was rising, casting a warm glow through the glass windows. The bell above the door rang softly every time a customer came in. This was her routine, one she knew by heart. "Good morning," she greeted, handing a cappuccino to the first customer of the day with a polite smile. The man nodded, took the cup, and sat by the window. Another day had begun. Emma was 24. She had worked at Brew and Beans Cafe for almost 3 years. It wasn't a fancy place, but it was warm and familiar, like the smell of fresh coffee that greeted her every morning. She was friendly, hard-working, and always remembered her regulars' favorite drinks. But behind her warm smile, there was a secret she never shared. Every time she steamed milk, wiped down tables, or watched people laugh and chat over coffee, her mind drifted. One day, I'll have my own coffee shop. She didn't tell anyone. Not her co-workers, not her friends, not even her mother. It sounded silly. She didn't have money, experience, or the courage. Just a quiet dream that lived in the back of her heart. Sometimes, after her shift, Emma would walk past empty stores for rent and imagine what her shop would look like. She pictured the wooden chairs, the soft jazz music, the smell of cinnamon rolls. She even had a name for it, Emma's Dream Cafe. But dreams were soft things. They could break easily. "Emma, table 4 is waiting," her manager called from the back. She shook off her thoughts and smiled again. "On it." As she walked to the table with 2 hot chocolates, her sneakers squeaked slightly against the floor. A little girl at the table smiled at her. Emma smiled back and handed her a drink with extra marshmallows. "You remembered," the girl said. "Of course," Emma replied. "That's your favorite." Little moments like this made her happy. But still, something was missing, something bigger, something that looked like a dream but felt too far away. Later that afternoon, during a short break, Emma sat outside on the back steps. She opened a small notebook from her bag. Its pages were full of coffee recipes, doodles, and ideas. On the first page, she had written, "Someday I will open my own coffee shop, even if I'm afraid." She touched the words with her finger, then quickly closed the notebook, afraid someone might see. Her break ended. She stood up, adjusted her apron, and went back inside. The scent of espresso greeted her once again. Customers came and went. The hours passed. And as she cleaned the machines at closing time, she looked around the shop one last time. It wasn't hers, but she was grateful. Because it was here, in this little place, that her dream had quietly begun to grow. The next morning, the rain tapped gently against the windows as Emma tied her apron and prepared for another shift. The shop felt colder than usual, the air heavy with the grey of the cloudy sky. Still, she smiled, welcoming the first customers with warm drinks and warmer words. By 10 a.m., the cafe was busier. Emma moved quickly between the tables, refilling cups, wiping counters, taking orders. She didn't mind the rush. In fact, she liked it. The sound of clinking cups and quiet chatter comforted her. That's when it happened. A tall man in a business suit walked in, talking loudly on his phone. He ordered a black coffee. No sugar, no milk. Emma made it fresh, carefully pouring it into the cup. She placed it gently on the counter. "Here you go, sir. 1 black coffee." He ended his call, picked up the cup, took a sip, and frowned. "This is cold," he snapped. Emma blinked. "I'm sorry?" "This coffee is cold. I asked for hot coffee." She looked at the cup, confused. "I just made it, sir." He put it back on the counter, louder now. "Well, it's not hot. Do it again. And do it right this time." Other customers turned their heads. Emma felt her cheeks burn. She nodded silently and remade the drink. Her hands shook slightly as she worked. When she handed it to him again, he didn't say thank you, just walked away. Her manager appeared a minute later. "Emma, What happened with the man in the suit? She explained quickly, trying to stay calm. You have to be more careful, he said. We can't afford to lose regulars. I understand, she whispered. The rest of the shift moved slower. Emma smiled at the next customers, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. The man's voice kept echoing in her mind. Do it again. Do it right this time. When her shift finally ended, she changed clothes and left through the back door. The rain had stopped, but the ground was still wet. She walked slowly, her shoulders heavy. At home, she sat on the edge of her bed and opened her notebook again. She stared at the first page. The dream. Someday I will open my own coffee shop. But today it didn't feel true. She flipped to the next page and began to write. Today I felt small. I tried, but it wasn't enough. Maybe I'm not good enough for this. She stared at the words. Then she wrote one more sentence, but I still want it. She closed the notebook and sighed. It was just a bad day. Everyone has them, right? Still, something inside her felt broken. Not completely, but cracked. She turned off the light and lay in bed, listening to the soft hum of the city outside. She thought about the rude man, her boss's face, the awkward silence in the shop. But she also thought about the little girl with marshmallows, and her notebook, and the name Emma's Dream Cafe. Somewhere deep inside, the dream still glowed, not bright, but not gone. 2 days later, the sun was back. It poured through the cafe windows, warming the wooden floors and brightening the mood. Emma felt a little better. The memory of the angry man had faded, but not completely. Still, she smiled as she placed croissants in the glass display and brewed the first pots of coffee. Around mid-morning, a new customer walked in. He looked different from the usual crowd, relaxed, curious. He wore a baseball cap, a camera hung around his neck, and his shirt said, New York City. Emma guessed he was a tourist. Hi there, he said, approaching the counter. His accent was unmistakable. American. Emma froze for half a second, then quickly replied, Good morning, what can I get you? He looked at the menu above her head, then smiled. I'll have a cappuccino, please. And maybe something sweet? Emma pointed to the pastries. We have chocolate cake, banana bread, and cinnamon rolls. Cinnamon roll, please, he grinned. That sounds amazing. She nodded, carefully prepared his drink, and warmed up the pastry. When she handed them over, he said, Thank you. Emma smiled shyly. You're welcome. He took a seat by the window and pulled out a small notebook. A few minutes passed. Then, as Emma was wiping the counter, he called out, Hey, excuse me? She walked over. Yes? This is really good, he said, holding up the cappuccino. Best coffee I've had since I got to Brazil. Emma blushed a little. Thank you. Did you make it yourself? Yes, she said softly. He nodded. You're talented. She wasn't sure what to say. Thanks. Then he smiled again and asked, Do you speak English? Emma hesitated. A little. Cool, he said. Your English sounds good. Emma laughed nervously. No, I make many mistakes. That's how we learn, he said. I'm still learning Portuguese. So far, I only know obrigado and pastel. She laughed again, this time more relaxed. They chatted for a few minutes. Nothing deep, just small things. He told her he was from New York, visiting South America for the first time. She told him she worked here almost every day. Her English was broken, but he was patient, kind, and smiled often. When he finished his coffee, he stood up and said, Thank you again. Seriously, you made my morning better. Emma nodded, still smiling. Have a nice day. You too. As he walked away, something inside her felt lighter, like a window had opened. She returned to the counter, still thinking about the conversation. She had used English, real English, and someone had understood her. Later that night, after her shift, she went home, made some tea, and sat at her desk. She opened her notebook and flipped past the bad day, past the sentence, "Maybe I'm not good enough." On a fresh page, she wrote, "Today I spoke English. I was nervous, but I did it, and I made someone smile." She paused, then added, "Maybe I am good enough. Maybe I just need to try more." She underlined the last sentence twice. The dream was still there, and now it felt just a little more possible. Emma's alarm buzzed at 5:30 a.m., just like always. She turned it off and sat up slowly, stretching as the early light crept through her curtains. Her body felt tired, but her mind was different. There was a spark now, a reason to push through the long shifts. She dressed, ate a simple breakfast, and walked to the cafe. On the way, she listened to an English podcast. The speaker was slow and clear, exactly what she needed. Emma repeated the phrases softly. "I would like a cup of coffee." Could you help me? My name is Emma." Her pronunciation wasn't perfect, but she was learning. Work was busy. Emma greeted customers with more confidence now. She even practiced short English greetings with tourists, just 1 or 2 phrases, but enough to keep the spark alive. Every small success felt like fuel. That evening after work, Emma skipped watching TV and sat at her tiny desk. She opened YouTube and searched English for beginners. Dozens of videos popped up. She clicked on one titled "Learn English in 30 Days." A cheerful teacher appeared. Emma smiled. She grabbed a pen and notebook. "Hello," the teacher said. "Let's learn how to introduce yourself." Emma repeated, "Hello, my name is Emma. I'm from Brazil. I work in a coffee shop." She paused the video and wrote the sentence 3 times. Then she said it aloud again, slowly, carefully. The next video taught her numbers, days of the week, and common verbs like go, eat, make, and want. She practiced until her eyes felt heavy. At midnight, she closed the notebook. On the last page, she wrote, "I studied English for 1 hour today. I am proud." The next day followed the same rhythm. Cafe by day, English by night. Some nights she was too tired. Other nights she only studied for 20 minutes. But she didn't stop, not anymore. One Saturday after her shift, she visited a bookstore. She found a small English workbook and a used copy of The Little Prince in English. It cost more than she wanted to spend, but she bought it anyway. At home, she started reading the first page. "Once, when I was 6 years old." The words were hard. She looked up some in a dictionary app. But slowly, the meaning began to make sense. The little boy in the story reminded her of herself, someone with a quiet dream no one else understood. That week, Emma also began searching for videos about opening a small business. She wrote a list. Rent, equipment, menu, logo, name, Emma's Dream Cafe. She underlined it twice. She didn't know how or when it would happen, but she wanted to be ready. Her notebook was now full of English phrases, coffee recipes, and business ideas. It was becoming her second brain and her first step toward the life she wanted. At the cafe, customers noticed something different about her. Emma smiled more. She moved with quiet purpose. And when another tourist walked in, she didn't hesitate. "Hi there, welcome. What would you like today?" The tourist smiled, surprised. "Wow, your English is great." Emma blushed, but this time she didn't hide. "Thank you," she said proudly. "I'm learning." It had been 4 months since Emma started her late-night learning routine. Her English wasn't perfect, but it was growing stronger, 1 word at a time. So was she. Her mornings began earlier now, with a quick review of vocabulary flashcards while sipping her coffee. Words like menu, price, customer, and smile became part of her everyday thinking. At work, she kept a small notebook in her pocket, jotting down new words she heard from tourists. One day, a German couple came into the cafe. Emma greeted them confidently. "Good morning. What can I get for you today?" They smiled, slightly surprised by her fluent tone. She helped them choose drinks, recommended the cinnamon rolls, and even asked about their travels. "You speak English very well," the woman said. Emma beamed. "Thank you. I'm learning every day." Another customer, a frequent visitor named Raphael, overheard the conversation. He approached the counter after they left. "Emma, your English is really improving. I've noticed," he said kindly. "Thanks," she replied, her cheeks warming. "I've been practicing a lot." Raphael nodded. "I work in marketing. If you ever need help promoting something, a project or a small business, let me know." Emma's eyes lit up. "Actually, I have a dream," she whispered, then hesitated. "For a business?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "A coffee shop, my own. Someday." He smiled. "Then you'll need a name, a brand, a story. When you're ready, I can help." The idea of someone believing in her, even a little, gave her new energy. That night, she made a spreadsheet on her old laptop. Money saved, rate $100, estimated cost, $12,000, monthly goals, save $500, timeline, 2 years. It felt far away, but at least now it felt real. She added a new section to her notebook, mini goals. Speak to 1 tourist per day, learn 5 new English words per week, save $20 every Monday, watch 3 business videos weekly. The next day, she brought her own handmade coffee syrup to work, vanilla and cinnamon. She asked her manager, "Can I offer this to customers today, just to try?" He shrugged. "Sure, why not?" By lunchtime, 3 people had complimented the flavor. 1 even asked if they could buy a bottle. Emma wrote that down too. That week, she worked harder than ever. But it didn't feel heavy anymore. Each shift felt like a step forward. Every kind word, every new phrase learned, every coin saved, it all added up. Late one night, as she looked out the window of her small apartment, she whispered to herself, "I'm not there yet, but I'm on the way." She looked at her notebook one more time. Beneath her notes from the day, she wrote, "Dreams don't grow when we're ready. They grow when we start." And she had started. 6 months had passed since Emma first spoke to the tourist with the kind smile. Life was still busy. She still worked long hours. She still got tired. But something was different now. Something inside her felt strong, grounded. She now worked part-time at a larger cafe across town. It had better equipment, a bigger kitchen, and more international customers. Emma had applied there with confidence, using her new English skills to impress the owner. "I love coffee," she had said during the interview, "and I love learning." Now, she was surrounded by professionals, baristas who talked about brewing methods and coffee origins. Every day felt like a class. She asked questions, she took notes, she practiced new recipes, but she hadn't left her old dream behind. In the evenings, Emma returned home and worked on her own project. She created a simple logo with her name. She printed test labels for her cinnamon syrup. She even made an Instagram page, Emma's Dream Cafe, where she posted pictures of her coffee and notes from her journey. Each weekend, she experimented with flavors and wrote her feedback in her notebook. "Too sweet. Needs stronger vanilla. Try with oat milk next time." She also started selling a few bottles of her syrup to regular customers. Word began to spread. Her savings had grown too, slowly but surely. Raphael, the marketing friend, helped her design a flyer. "One day," she said, "this will hang in my window." He smiled. "Not one day. Soon." One Tuesday afternoon, Emma visited her mother's house. In the back, there was a small garage filled with old tools and furniture. She stood in the doorway, staring at it quietly. Her mother came up behind her. What are you thinking about? Emma turned, nervous. What if I cleaned this place up? Painted the walls? Maybe turn it into something small? A tiny cafe? Her mother smiled. You already know my answer. That weekend, Emma and two friends began cleaning. They painted the walls white and added a wooden counter. She found second-hand chairs online and fixed them up with cushions, plants, mugs, a chalkboard menu. It was simple, homemade, but it felt alive. On a Friday morning, Emma stood outside the little garage cafe. A handwritten sign hung above the door. Emma's Dream Cafe. She took a deep breath, opened the door, and turned on the lights. Her first customer was a neighbor. The second was Raphael. The third was a tourist who had followed her Instagram page. The room smelled like cinnamon and hope. Later that evening, Emma sat behind her counter with a cup of her own coffee in her hands. She looked around at the little tables, the plants, the menu board. She opened her old notebook, flipped past the page that read, "Someday I will open my own coffee shop." And on a fresh page she wrote, "I did it." Then, below it, "And this is only the beginning."